Hi, it's Crystal from KhipHop Discussions, and today we're going to talk about AllDay Project and cultural appropriation. The reason why I want to talk about this is because a few months ago, last year 2025, I did a few reactions to AllDay Project. I didn't really know much about them, but I had heard a few things about them around and all of that. I have gotten a few comments about AllDay Project and whether they're problematic or not, just arguing that point. Well, not really, they're stating their case. I don't feel like they're being aggressive towards me, but they're just stating their case and how they feel about it. And sometimes I do delete those comments because a lot of them are ignorant. They don't mean to be ignorant, but I can tell that they're ignorant of the subject. Ignorant isn't an insult in and of itself. The way I'm using it as like the dictionary definition. You see what I mean? Like, this person doesn't know about something. They're not well educated on a particular subject. So that's how I'm using it. I'm not using it as an insult to them. And I think I need to reiterate where I stand on the topic of cultural appropriation and canceling and all of that stuff. So let's start with a small overview of cultural appropriation. Cultural appropriation is scientific fact. If you don't believe in cultural appropriation, you just don't believe in actual science. There's a legal precedent that validates cultural appropriation as a real thing. There's a sociological evidence that validates cultural appropriation as a real thing. There's psychological evidence, and there's anthropological evidence that validates this. Back when I first got to college, I took a physical anthropology class. One of the things we talked about in that class is cultural appropriation. I also took another class with that teacher. It was about Native Americans, and another thing that we talked about was cultural appropriation because it's a real thing. It's scientific fact. And keep in mind, I said physical anthropology, right? The first class I took. That's biology. So it's like people are saying like, oh, like they don't consider sociology a real science, psychology, it's a soft science. Like, no, physical anthropology is biology. It's the hard science. All sciences use the scientific method, so they're all technically valid, whether you want to accept that or not. I know that people want to put STEM on a pedestal, computer science, engineering, biology, they want to put that on the pedestal and be like, oh, psychology, sociology, whatever, that's like a soft science, whatever, to put it down. Me, I've done both. I have a linguistics degree, I have computer science degrees and certificates, things like that. So I have both of them. I know that in those soft sciences that you guys consider soft sciences, they use the scientific method and they have to follow the same protocols basically as the hard sciences. So they're valid and they are real. Period. Another example that I want to go back to, since I brought up Native Americans, there has been Native American tribes that have sued fashion houses, and it's usually in fashion, but they've sued people because they were culturally appropriating, and they won those cases because it's real legally. There's actual court cases where they've won for cultural appropriation because culture is actually looked at as the intellectual property of the people who are in that culture, which is why a Native American tribe can sue somebody for cultural appropriation, basically. It's copyright infringement, basically. No, I'm not gonna get into all the details of all these things and bring up sources and all of that because it's on the internet, you guys can go find it. And I don't know why I would lie about this and just come up and say, oh, they sued it. Like, no, it's real facts. I didn't just come up with that, it's real. So with that said, let's move on to AllDay Project. The biggest reason that I can see why AllDay Project is getting a lot of heat is because of their member Tarzzan. A lot of people feel like he culturally appropriated, which I'm here to tell you, yes, he did. Even if you watch the video Famous and the review I did on it, you can see like he has the cornrows. So yes, that is cultural appropriation. Cornrows are intellectual property, and all Black hairstyles and everything that comes from Black culture, it's intellectual property of Black people and African Americans and people of African descent. Okay, and I don't want to lump all those together because it's a little bit different. You can't say just because something's African American culture that it's Jamaican culture, or just because it's Nigerian culture that it's African American culture, right? But for just to generalize it right now, we're talking about cornrows. African Americans do have a right to speak on this because cornrows are part of African American culture. Yes, it's influenced from Africa because our ancestors were Africans and they were brought over to America with their culture, and we had to make a new culture. That's what African American culture is. But it's still us. People try to paint it out like because we're not born and raised in Africa that we're not real Africans, and we got to talk more about that a little bit later. So like I was saying, he absolutely did cultural appropriate when he had those braids in. So that's fact. I don't know what else to tell you guys. When people are saying they culturally appropriated and that's why they don't mess with AllDay Project, they're not saying anything factually incorrect. They're factually correct. They're right. All right, so I also think there's people who don't understand why cultural appropriation is bad. So yeah, like intellectual property, copyright infringement, all of that. But how is it actually harming the communities? Well, if you go back to the Native American example, one thing that Native American people don't like is when people sell things like dream catchers or turquoise jewelry, it depends. But the reason for that is because other brands, even fashion designers, because that was the first initial example I use, these brands will price their intellectual property so high that they can't afford it anymore, or they can't profit off of it anymore. They think that their version is the authentic version, even though it's actually theirs. So when the Native Americans are trying to sell their things, they're like, oh, is it authentic? And they get all these questions, things like that. But also because if somebody else is selling it, let's say it's something that you don't sell at all, well, now you're trying to go back and use your own cultural things, but they're priced so high you can't even afford them anymore when it's your stuff. So that's a few reasons why. Another thing specifically about the Black community about hair is that basically Black hair, Afro textured hair, is highly discriminated against. And that's part of the reason for that is because there's a lot of stereotypes, like Black people don't wash their hair, or they're dirty, or things like that. So one of the things that I've noticed about non-Black people who get dreadlocks and things like that, they'll say things that aren't really true. They're like, oh, I can't wash my hair for this amount of time, or I can't do this, I can't do that. And so like they're kind of dirty and stink. So people will look at them and be like, oh, well, if you can't wash dreadlocks, then everybody with dreadlocks is dirty and stink. But for us, since we naturally have Afro textured hair, we can get dreadlocks, and washing it isn't going to affect the integrity of the style. Same thing with box braids, same thing with cornrows, things like that. Black people, if they want to, they can wash their hair every single day. So we're not dirty when we have locks and cornrows and stuff like that. You can technically wash them every single day if we want to. Is it gonna look the exact same as the way it was when you first got it done? Obviously no, because you're taking off different products, or you're like making it frizzy by like washing it around and things like that. But it's not gonna completely destroy the hairstyle like it would with people who don't have extra Afro textured hair. It's not matted hair, it's not dirty hair, it's not hair with a bunch of products caked on necessarily, or any of that. So they have all these stereotypes about the Black community because these non-Black people are getting these styles that are not meant for their hair. So they have to do like dirty stuff, or they have to do stuff that's like unhealthy for the hair or whatever. But we will get unfairly discriminated against because of those people. So that's why there's an issue with cultural appropriation as well. It leads to discrimination against Black hair and Black culture. And I want to make sure that I'm emphasizing the fact that Black hair, Afro textured hair specifically, is extremely discriminated against. There was even laws where the Black women had to cover their hair. It's called the Tignon laws or something like that, Tignon. And one of the reasons for that, I'm reading it right now, is for all people of African descent way back in the days in New Orleans. They had to cover their hair, and it was because they felt like it was stifling economic growth, or it was attracting too much attention, right? So it's like, and even today you still have that, like people don't want you to wear your natural hairstyle like an afro or whatever because they feel like it's attracting too much attention, or it's just unprofessional because it's too whatever. For some reason they feel like it's unprofessional or unkempt or things like that. So even today, those laws from way back then are still affecting us today in the workplace and having us being discriminated against in the workplace, outside of the workplace, on TV, off TV, on YouTube, off wherever, you know what I mean? And even though I know that a lot of the people in this cultural appropriation discourse on the other side, it's because they're racist, and I don't want to like water that down. It's 100% because they're racist and they're just trying to go against Black people out of spite. But for the people who don't understand, like, it's not just hair for us. Our hair texture, meaning the Black community, Afro texture hair is highly discriminated against, and it has been for a very long time, which is why a lot of African American people, even though they may not sue you like the Native Americans don't play. And I feel them on that, like, do not play with them. Don't let them play with you. But even though we may not sue for a lot of different reasons, but we still recognize that this harms us in multiple different ways. And that's why we take it so seriously. And it's not just hair, and it's not just, it's not a big deal, it's just braids. Well, the real Africans care. Back to the Africans and the real Africans, a lot of reasons why the domestic or the continental Africans don't care is because they live in a society that's majority Black. Because your own boss might also be having his locks in, his cornrows or whatever. But when you live in a white society like America or Europe, for example, you might have a white boss or a boss of any culture. It may even be a Black boss who's discriminated against you because they've been so indoctrinated by certain mindsets and attitudes in America. And back to Korea, one thing that a lot of Black people, myself included, when I went to Korea, I had braids. I probably won't stick a picture in, but I had some box braids or whatever. But I've heard that a lot of people who go there, a lot of the women will try to like touch their hair and pet them like they're in the hair zoo if they have a hair zoo, pet them like they're in a zoo, and just like treat them like a zoo animal instead of like a human because of the way their hair is. And that's a form of discrimination. Even though some of them may not mean it to be mean, it's still a form of discrimination and a form of like dehumanization to just go up to people and touch their hair. And without even asking, because there's some people, like, if you at least ask them, like, can I touch your hair or whatever, can I do this, like, they'll let you, and they'll maybe teach you about box braids and dreadlocks or whatever. But when you're just going up to random people, just putting your hands in their hair, and Korean people don't play that. Like, they don't really touch each other. They're not really skinship. They have that, they call it that. They're not really a touchy society. So when you're just going up to random other people and treating them different from all the other people that you would treat in society, obviously that's going to make them feel bad. Like, oh, like, why did they get the respect to not be touched without permission or touched at all? But you feel like you can just complete stranger off the street, an ajumma or whoever, just come and put your whole hand in my afro or in my braids, in my dreads, whatever. You feel me? So that's where the main issue is and why so many people get upset about cultural appropriation, especially of the hair. So I'm gonna go read a comment that I got on my Guides to AllDay Project. I've gotten multiple comments like this and similar to this, but I've deleted the other ones. But I decided, you know what? I'm gonna keep getting comments like this because obviously I'm making a video positively about AllDay Project, so naturally their fans are gonna watch it. So I think I should talk about and explain what the issue is instead of just deleting it, because clearly there's still confusion about this subject, even though for me it's been talked about for a long time, and I actually don't even like talking about cultural appropriation anymore because it wastes so much energy that I don't like to do it. So from this comment, one thing that I want to talk about first, they say, and Tarzzan's braids. The people complaining about his braids aren't even African. The real Africans say that they like his braids and he should keep it. It just so happens that they claim they are problematic and expect them to apologize for every single thing like other idols. Okay, so let's start with the real Africans thing. What this person is talking about, they're talking about people who are born and raised on the continent of Africa in any country. Real Africans is an issue because cornrows and dreadlocks are not only African culture. So African Americans are descended from Africans. Same thing with a lot of people from the Caribbean. Same thing with a lot of people from Brazil. More of the slaves from the African slave trade were brought to Brazil than there were to America. Back to the African slave trade in America though, when those slaves are brought over from West Africa primarily and brought to the United States, they weren't allowed to engage with their languages, their religions, a lot of their culture. A lot of them were just thrown in, and it was just like, I don't care if you're from Ghana and you're from Nigeria, y'all are all slaves. Y'all are all, I can't really say this because I know somebody's gonna try to report me to my school for saying this word, but y'all are all N-words, basically. So figure it out. And so that's what they did. They got together, they had all their cultural things, and obviously they're on the plantation, they're trying to live together, trying to interact, trying to make sure everything runs smoothly, so nobody gets whipped, so nobody has something bad happen to them, whatever. They're trying to do their stuff and survive. So they ended up bringing all these cultures together and basically using what they had in America to build a new culture that has influences from all these other different cultures, primarily from West Africa. So this is where you get things like cornrows, this is where you get things like locks that are slightly different from the things that they practice actually in Africa, because they're a combination of things from all of these countries as well as new things added in. You know, they have different herbs, they have a whole bunch of different stuff in America that they wouldn't have had back in certain parts of Africa. So they're blending all this stuff together. So, because the African American style of cornrows and locks and other types of hairstyles are slightly different in technique and sometimes style and other ways as well, it's valid for an African American to speak on cornrows. It's not just something that only somebody from the continent of Africa can speak on. This might be controversial, but it's 100% true. I do not care who says otherwise. If somebody is making hip hop is an African American invention. It has African influences, but it was invented by African Americans. So when somebody is making hip hop music and they're wearing dreadlocks or cornrows or whatever box braids, they're mimicking African American, which is why African Americans are speaking up about it. They're not trying to be like an African, they're trying to be like an African American who they've seen in a music video or on an album cover at a concert or whatever. So it's 100% valid for African Americans to speak on this, in our opinion, to be taken seriously, if not even straight up centered. Because we know, and everybody knows, that they're trying to mimic us, not necessarily somebody from Nigeria. Even though I still feel like somebody from Nigeria has a right to speak up on that and say like, oh, you're culturally appropriating, because they also have cornrows in their culture. So it's partially for them to speak up on too. If an Afro-Brazilian wants to speak up, if anybody from the African diaspora wants to speak up, I feel like it's valid, even though we know that primarily who they're getting the main influence from is because they watched an African American do it. So that's why I say you can't always just go to any African and be like, oh, well, how do you feel about this? You can't even go to any African American, because I talked about how I learned about this stuff. Well, I learned about this on the internet, but where it was mainly how I knew for sure that this is a scientific fact is because I learned about this in actual college courses. Not everybody has access to college. Not everybody is taking college courses. Not everybody's on the same part of the internet as you are. So maybe they're not seeing these conversations, and as a result, they're not educated on the conversation, which is why you can't just go up to any random African or random African American, random Afro-Brazilian and be like, hey, how do you feel about Tarzzan from AllDay Project wearing cornrows? And I gotta be honest with you, a lot of people, I can tell you guys purposely take the opinion of the people who agree with you and ignore the opinions of everybody else who's speaking up on that concept. Because I know for a fact, if I scroll long enough on TikTok or any other social media site, eventually I'm gonna find a real African, meaning somebody born and raised in Nigeria, somebody born and raised in Ghana, somebody born and raised in Cameroon, somewhere in West Africa. They're gonna be like, oh, he's a cultural appropriator. He's on some weird stuff. I don't appreciate that. So this is the problem that I see throughout my years in the K-hip-hop and the K-pop community, is that people will find any African or Black person they can and be like, how do you feel about this? Oh, okay, well then you're the person who I'm supposed to listen to because you already agree with me, and I'm just gonna ignore all these thousands of people saying something different. So even though I don't want to say that I'm coming down hard on this person who commented this thing, because it's not really about them, it's because I've seen this mentality repeated time after time after time after time. That's why I'm speaking up on it. But that's not a good mindset or thought process to have about this, because yes, different Black people can have different opinions because some are ignorant, some are anti-Black themselves. You can be Black and still hate Black people, especially African Americans. That's a whole nother topic. There's a lot of people who are Black of African descent, and they don't like African American people, specifically African Americans. As far as that, they claim they are problematic and expect them to apologize for every single little thing like other idols. Most idols don't apologize for that much stuff. Usually when they apologize, it's either for something that is stupid, like a dating scandal, or they're apologizing because they actually did cultural appropriate or say something racist or racially insensitive, whatever, and that's what they're apologizing for. The vast majority of idol groups and whatever don't apologize for pretty much anything, straight up. So back to Tarzzan's braids, I saw that he took the braids out. He's not even wearing cornrows anymore from what I've seen. I saw the famous MV, he was wearing them. But then when I saw the other MV, I forgot what it's called, he just had his hair straight out or whatever. So for me, I feel like I don't hold cultural appropriation against people forever. If you have one instance of it, you came out in your debut, that was your first interest of it, you had them, I'm gonna be like, all right, so I understand that's wrong, but now that you changed it, I'm gonna give you another chance. Some people feel like, oh, once you do it, it's a wrap for me. And I understand where they're coming from. Because to be honest, usually when somebody has one instance of cultural appropriation or racial insensitivity, it tends to be a pattern. And no matter how many times they get called out, no matter how many times people try to reason with them and give them the same information, if not in more depth, that I'm giving you right now, they think it's hating, they think it's this, they think it's that, but it's not. That's why I made sure to tell you guys that this is scientific fact for all the people who still want to doubt it and still want to dispute it. So I talked a little bit about how I don't like talking about cultural appropriation because it's exhausting. Yes, the conversation is really cyclical because a lot of people just do not want to accept and believe that cultural appropriation is a real thing, even with all this scientific evidence. For me personally, at the beginning of KhipHop discussions, way back when I started in 2015, I used to talk about cultural appropriation a lot, and I talked about it for years and years, and it just exhausted me. So I kind of just stopped talking about it. I feel like other people are talking about it. As I got older, it's like, oh wait, like I have money now. Like I can just revoke my money and not give you anything and just let you die in obscurity, which is what you're supposed to do, right? Because now we're gonna get into the second portion. I feel like a lot of these people who culturally appropriate, they do it on purpose because they know it's gonna get the Black community talking, and in the entertainment industry, all publicity is good publicity. And I can tell, like, there's people who I know better, and they purposely do and say certain stuff so that they can get some publicity. And you see a few weeks later, maybe a month later, maybe a few months later, all of a sudden they have a new project out. Because they just got all this publicity from being a cultural appropriator or from saying something racially insensitive. A lot of these people, that's another reason why I don't like talking about it, because I can tell now that some of these people use controversy and rage bait to get the Black community talking so that we can basically boost their career up. Because all the people who are anti-woke or anti-Black, basically, they're gonna be like, oh, well, I'm gonna support them just to spite the Black community. I'm gonna support them just because I feel like they got unfairly attacked or unfairly canceled. I'm anti-woke, I'm anti this. So I over the years, I started to realize, like, oh, the reason why you keep doing this isn't because you're uneducated. It isn't even because, like, you just genuinely, truly hate Black people, even though some of them technically do. It's because this is the only way you get attention. The only time you get attention, the only way that you get publicity and this much attention is when the Black community is dragging you and trying to cancel you and on your back. So personally, as a Black fan, I feel like a lot of these people you should kind of just completely ignore and never ever speak on them and just let their careers flounder, because it's clear that they can't get their career where they want it to be without the attention and without the energy of the Black community. And that's like the greatest revenge you could have. Like, you hate us so bad, but your career does not work unless we talk about you. But I want to make sure, I know that some people are just uneducated on the topic. I know that there's people who are genuinely, like, passionately, hatefully, KKK style racist against Black people. They hate Black people. But I also can acknowledge that there's people who, they're doing this, even though it still technically is a form of anti-Blackness, they're not anti-Black in the same way that a KKK member would be. They're engaging in these anti-Black behaviors just for the attention and just to grift, as they call it. There's different types of racists, but this isn't the channel for that. There's whole other channels about that. There's different types of racists, so yeah. Anyway, okay, so back to the comment. The first thing they said is, there's nothing wrong with them, just other fandoms hating them for winning awards too early in their career and trying to compare them. Personally, I saw AllDay Project being talked about negatively, specifically Tarzzan, way before they started getting awards. Way before. While I can admit that there's actually absolutely some truth to this, over the years I've been able to spot that a lot of people don't actually care about the social issues. They love when a group culturally appropriates or says something racist because, oh, I didn't like you anyway, so now I can latch on to this serious issue like racism to cancel you when I don't even care about that. I'm just using it because I don't like you anyway, because you're a competitor to my group, because maybe I'm have resentment towards you because I'm jealous of a member or something, or because I don't want it to be you, I want it to be someone else, whatever. So I know that there's people who jump on these bandwagons just to virtue signal people who want to be like, oh, I'm a good person, like, see, I agree with you guys, even though they don't really care. And there's also people who don't care at all, they just don't like the group, and this is the way that they're using to try to get them canceled. On the topic of canceling isn't even a real thing. Like, it does not happen. It only happens to people who were already disliked in the first place. People were looking for a reason to get them up out of here, and now they have a valid reason, because before then they didn't really have a valid reason, so they couldn't really get them up out of here. But for the most part, The people who are going to try to cancel an artist or a group are the people who aren't even fans of them, basically. Most fans are probably going to forgive them, especially if it only happens once. A lot of fans are going to defend them. A lot of fans are going to be like, hey, it is what it is. There's no ethical consumption under capitalism, so hey. For me personally, I feel like there's a limit to it. Everybody has their own limit. Sometimes there's some artists who have done certain things that it was their first time doing something wrong, and that just it just hit different for some reason. I've never been able to put my finger on exactly why it hit different, but for them it just did. And there's others where like, oh, okay, that's problematic. Okay, they stopped. But after a while, once it becomes like a recurring issue and it's the same issue, like you keep getting cornrows, you keep getting dreadlocks, then that's what's like, all right, I'm backing off. So this comes from way towards the end of their comment. Might I remind their haters that they are under the black label. And if anything, throwing back shades at haters is what they're doing now, and I like it. Okay. Well, like I alluded to, not everybody who's against AllDay Project is a hater. I do think people are dragging it. I personally think stop giving them your attention. If you're really that serious about it, stop boosting them in the algorithm. Stop making 1,000,000,001 videos about them. Stop hyping them up, because like I said, I see it. There's people who are getting popular off of constantly rage baiting the black community, and that's the most attention they ever have in their career. That is the last time they rage baited the black community is the last time they had attention. And any other time, nobody gives a about them, period. That's why I just let, okay, that group is racist, this group does this group does that, just bye. Another thing people are bringing up is the black label and how AllDay Project has all of this creative freedom and all of this, they can do whatever they want. First of all, as someone who has worked multiple jobs, that's not true. Nobody ever has creative freedom, ever. They may let them have most of the creative freedom, but even in K-hip-hop, for example, Ash Island. I know the K-hip-hop fans are gonna watch this because this is a K-hip-hop account. Ash Island, the executive producer of Invention Music, declined one of his albums before. And you would think that Ash Island has all of the creative freedom in the world. No, you still have to go through your bosses because they're paying money. Your executive producer can veto, approve of, or veto your album and be like, no, take this out, do this, do that. We're not gonna release this. So nobody has creative freedom like that if you're working a job for somebody else. What these K-pop companies and the music industry in general, they're marketing you authenticity. They're telling you, oh, this artist is more authentic than the other. Specifically with idols, they love to do this with hip-hop inspired idol groups. Oh, they're more authentic, they're real, they're not like the idols who are just wearing makeup. Everybody in the idol scene has some form where they're being told what to do. They have choreographers, they have producers, they have executive producers, they have stylists, and that's another thing. That's another reason why I'm not going too hard on Tarzzan, because I know that there was absolutely a stylist who did that hairstyle for him. There was a person who was like, oh, we're doing a hip-hop concept. You're a little bit of a tan or Asian. So we're gonna capitalize off of that to make you look a bit more street, a little bit urban, a little bit more black. And we're gonna put cornrows in your hair so that you can appear more authentically hip-hop. I know that wasn't his choice. A lot of people are gonna try to pretend like, oh, they have all the creative freedom. They're under the black label. They're doing it. They're idols. They're in the entertainment industry. They have a job, right? I've never been at a job as much creative freedom as I've always had. There's always been some type of guideline you have to follow because it's somebody else's company and you're an employee. They're never gonna get 100% creative freedom unless you're somebody like, I don't know, when you're way far in your career, like G-Dragon. If you have your own label, Icon now, since I brought up, we're talking about YG and Black Label, Icon and Minnow now probably have 100% creative freedom for the most part. But especially when you're in a group, you're never gonna have 100% creative freedom because you still have to work within the confines of what your other group mates are agreeing on. Maybe I didn't explain it well, but I just wanna say this. If you're in K-hip-hop, if you're in K-pop specifically, authenticity is a marketing tactic for hip-hop people in general. Not just in K-pop, but in general, which is why you have these rappers in America and Korea coming out trying to act like they're more gangster than they actually are or whatever, because they're trying to basically attach themselves to the authenticity of street people, because a lot of people feel like street people are raw and they're real and they're 100% authentic. And unless you're from the struggle, then you're not real or you're not authentic. That's a whole nother conversation that people in the Black community have, but that's that. So while I do believe that Tarzzan was probably like, oh yeah, like I like this, I know for a fact that the stylist and their company would have had the final say regardless, because they're paying for everything. And they have a specific concept that they're trying to do with this group. So it's kind of going to be like, maybe we can work with you. Maybe it can be an open dialogue, but at the end of the day, you're not just going to completely override us. Like, we're going to have some type of say in this. So all of that, oh, they're from YG, oh, they're from this company, oh, they're from that company. That's the key word, company. They still have bosses over them. They still have, and even their bosses and CEOs have shareholders and stuff. Black Label is a sub-label of YG. So even Teddy Park got a boss somewhere. And that's not to say that Teddy Park is like completely controlled or anything. Clearly YG trusts him, which is why he's been at this company since, like, I don't know, something, the late 90s or something. But there's still, when you're working at a company, there's still some type of rule you're gonna follow. And I just think it's just not realistic for these fans to be thinking that just because that these people are actually authentic 100%. Nobody's 100% authentic. Nobody in entertainment, nobody in K-pop, nobody in K-hip-hop. There's things that they're gonna say because it sounds good on the song, because it looks good on TV, because it portrays their image and their marketing and their branding the way they want it to be. So there's that. I do think that AllDay Project has probably more freedom than a whole bunch of other idols, but it's just not 100% the way y'all are trying to make it seem like. They're not, I don't feel like they're 100% controlled, like on a leash, on a shot collar, like some of these damn near idols are, but there's some intervention from the company and from the executives and the shareholders and whatever. So there's that. So at this point, I think I really said everything that I needed to say. Like I said, cultural appropriation is exhausting. It's so cyclical. Everybody has explained it at this point, but still there's people who have not fully gotten the picture. And I just rather not talk about cultural appropriation that much. But I also do want to let you guys know where I stand on these topics, because it's been a long history of K-hip-hop discussions. A lot of those discussions are not up anymore or whatever. So I want you guys to know where I still stand. And the same thing I'm saying in this video about AllDay Project, using them as an example, I believe the same thing about all the K-hip-hoppers, all of them, even the really popular ones who could probably get me blacklisted. They've culturally appropriated too. Do I forgive people? Do I give second chances? Do I give more than a few chances or whatever sometimes? Yes, to certain people. There's very specific people. So that's all I really have to say on the topic altogether. This is not just a K-pop thing or an AllDay Project thing or a Tarzzan thing. I think Tarzzan is early enough in his career where this doesn't have to become a continuous pattern with him. He can actually stop doing the cornrows and stuff like he already has from what I've seen. So there's that. I don't want to cancel AllDay Project. I'm not anti them. I'm not actively angered with them. I don't consider myself a fan of AllDay Project. I more so consider myself like, oh, like they're all right for the most part. So I'm rooting for Tarzzan to be better, and I'm rooting for the Black Label to not be doing that with Tarzzan's look, because he's really handsome and you can do a lot of stuff with his look. He does not have to be out here looking like trying to mimic an African-American person. Like, he's Korean, that's okay. Let him do his own swag. He can wear some streetwear, he can wear his chains, he can wear some things from hip-hop, but he doesn't have to appropriate the hairstyles, period. Or any other form of cultural appropriation. So I just wanted to do this video so people know where I stand. I know I've been doing K-hip-hop discussions almost 11 years this July. So there's that. A lot of those conversations are way back on my blog, where I took them down. They're not visible to people, whatever. But I want you guys to know that I still am not for cultural appropriation. I'm still gonna speak up no matter how big somebody's platform is, no matter how many fans they have. Even if I like them, I'm gonna speak up on it. Even if I forgave them for it, I'm gonna speak up on it if I saw it. I'm not gonna let you guys pretend like it didn't happen when we have it on video camera. I'm not gonna, but I'm also not gonna necessarily punish and hate everybody forever. Dislike everybody, whatever, because I do feel like people can grow and change and evolve and not be tied down to the time that they did cultural appropriation because they were ignorant and because their company put them in it, or because they were being stubborn. They didn't listen to that person who told them, hey, this is going to get backlash from that Black community or whatever. You know what I mean? So that's how I feel. That's all I have to say for now. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.